I just got over my husband's death and got suspected as a killer of my new boyfriend. Sometimes it feels like I'm cursed, like the universe or whatever's out there has it out for me. I can't help wondering what I did to deserve this kind of fate. I've loved 3 men in my life, and each one made a choice that ultimately cost him his life. Now, that fear is always there, gnawing at me. I'm only 31, but I'm terrified of losing anyone else I care about. I don't want to spend the rest of my life alone, but the thought of loving again is so daunting. Since Ben passed 2 years ago, I hadn't even considered dating. My therapist, Lena, has been helping me work through this fear of connecting again, though even with her encouragement, I never actually thought about pursuing a romantic relationship. But then, this one just seemed to fall into my lap. Recently, I went to a work conference, and during the first session, there was this incredibly handsome man, Tom. As luck would have it, we ended up paired together for an exercise, and the chemistry between us was immediate. We were laughing, talking as if we'd known each other forever. Soon, we had to switch partners, but I made sure to find him again before the next session started. By the last session that day, we'd found each other again, and that's when Tom asked me to dinner. The evening was such a blast, several drinks, hours of conversation. At the end of the night, I leaned in and kissed him before heading back to my room. I couldn't stop thinking about him afterward, wishing I'd asked him to come in. But at the same time, I felt this overwhelming anxiety. The idea of falling for someone again brought up so many fears. What if he became someone I cared about, and then something happened? Lena keeps telling me it's not a curse, just terrible things that happened. Still, I barely slept that night and ended up oversleeping the next morning. When I finally dragged myself out of bed, I didn't feel like I was put together at all. I spent most of the day avoiding Tom and, at the same time, hoping I'd run into him. The whole day passed and I didn't see him once. By the end of my last session, I was kicking myself for not inviting him in the night before. Then, as the session wrapped up and I was walking out, there was Tom waiting for me. He held out his hand, and we pulled each other into a hug. He told me he'd asked around to find my session and left his own early just to meet me. I was swooning. We went to dinner again, and this time I did invite him up to my room. And all I can say is, wow, it was incredible. The next morning, we exchanged numbers. He lives about 45 minutes away, which isn't too far, and for the next 2 days, I was floating on air. But then, out of nowhere, I hit this massive wave of guilt. I know Ben is gone, but suddenly it felt so fresh again. Everyone has been telling me I need to move on, to try dating, and now that I have, I'm filled with shame. Maybe it was because I moved so fast with Tom. Maybe it's just the reality of trying to move on. I think I need to see Lena, and I'm also considering talking with Ben's mom and sister. We've become closer since he passed, and they've been supportive, encouraging me to date again. I guess this is what moving on looks like. Tom and I have plans to go out again this Friday, and I haven't looked forward to something this much in a long time. I want to be with him again, but I can't shake the feeling that maybe I'm moving too soon. At least I'll see Lena on Thursday. I received so many comments on my last post, and I want to thank everyone for their thoughts. It helped me realize there really isn't anything to feel guilty about. I'm a single woman. He's a single man. There's nothing wrong with moving forward. My therapist, Lena, was thrilled to hear I was going on a date and reassured me that it was completely okay to pursue love again. I also spoke with my mother-in-law, Julie, and my sister-in-law, Christina, before my date on Friday, and they were over the moon about it. When I awkwardly admitted I'd already slept with Tom, they both emphatically cheered, yes. We had some great girl talk, and I left feeling really positive about everything. The date was amazing. Tom took me to the opening night of a new art gallery at the City Art Museum, and it was so romantic. He's a bit of an art history buff, which was adorable. He pointed out little details in the paintings, and I loved hearing his insights. Afterward, we went back to his place, and I stayed the night. The next morning, he asked me to spend the entire weekend with him, and it turned out to be one of the best weekends I've ever had. I'm seriously falling for this guy. Over the last 2 weeks, we've been finding any excuse to spend time together. We've been out for meals at least 8 times, done 2 hikes. He took me to a gun range where I shot for the first time, and I even got him to try his first pedicure, which was a hilarious experience. The best part? I'm not feeling those overwhelming waves of guilt anymore. I know I'll always love Ben, but I'm finally accepting that it's okay to move forward. These posts and all of your responses really helped me work through a lot of the complicated feelings I was carrying. Hi everyone, it's been a few weeks since my last update, and things with Tom and me are still going strong. No major news, except we made it official, so now I get to call him my boyfriend. The main reason I'm posting is twofold. A lot of people asked about what happened to the previous men in my life. It's not something I've really shared before, even with my therapist, Lena, because of how painful it is. Like I mentioned in my first post, each of them passed away after making a bad choice, and that's been a hard truth to come to terms with, knowing they should still be here. Lena actually encouraged me to share this story here, saying that if posting about my struggles with moving on was so helpful, maybe this would be too. So I decided to take her advice. Hopefully, this will bring some closure and answer questions for those who've been wondering. This all started 15 years ago when I was 16 and in love for the first time with my boyfriend, James. We'd been together for 2 years by then, and though it sounds naive, I really thought we'd get married someday, even with some rumors here and there. We were just typical teenagers going to parties, drinking, fooling around in his car, all the things teens do. One night, a friend of ours, who was the typical spoiled rich girl, threw a pill party. James and I decided to go. It was reckless, but we'd tried Adderall before for fun, and thought it would be okay to do it again. But that night, he made a deadly mistake. He ended up taking a large dose of roofies. Being the clueless teens we were, no one called 911 until it was too late. 6 years later, I was engaged to my college boyfriend, Chris. We'd been engaged for a year and were deep into wedding planning, which had caused a bit of stress. To take a break, he suggested a vacation. On the 3rd day of our trip, we went hiking on this beautiful trail that looped around a cliffside. I wanted to see the view from the edge, so we veered off the main path. When we reached the edge, there was this rock formation that jutted out like an arrowhead over the cliff. Chris wanted a photo of himself out on that rock. I told him it wasn't safe and I wasn't going out there, but he insisted. He took his selfie, and as he turned, he lost his balance on the loose rocks. He fell 40 feet onto jagged rocks below. That image has never left me. 2 years ago, I lost my husband, Ben. We'd been married just over a year after a 2-year engagement and had spent a total of 6 years together. We'd bought a house with a pool just before the wedding, and were starting to discuss some major life plans. Ben loved to swim, and his first big DIY project was installing underwater lights in the pool. I told him he should hire an electrician, but he was determined to do it himself. One Saturday morning, he went out for a swim. The lights had been left on overnight, and a stripped wire he missed had electrified the pool. When he jumped in, the electricity caused a shock that paralyzed him, leading to what's called electric shock drowning. I was the one who found him. As you can probably see, it's hard not to feel cursed. I have to admit, saying it all out loud feels strangely good. I've been so angry in the past, feeling that each of these deaths could have been avoided, but I've worked hard to forgive them. I think I'm finally ready to let go of the past and truly move forward. Hi everyone, it's been a while since my last update, but I have some exciting news. Tom and I have been married for 2 years now, and we're expecting our first child. I'm about 4 months along, and so far, everything's been going smoothly. But I know we're still early in the journey. That brings me to a little bump we've hit in our plans. I've always imagined being a stay-at-home mom, at least until the kids reach school age. Eventually, I could see myself taking on a part-time job, but that's way down the line since I've always dreamed of having a big family. Tom, though, doesn't completely agree. His mom recently retired and has offered to be our full-time babysitter, so he feels the best option would be for both of us to work. He's pointed out that while we could get by on his income alone, it would mean cutting back quite a bit. Tom thinks that if we both work, it would allow us to have more financial freedom, things like bigger vacations and some luxuries we'd have to forego if we were relying only on his salary. I've suggested that he look into advancement in his field since he's already doing well, but could still climb the ladder. Recently, he mentioned a new position with a significant pay raise, but he didn't want it due to the increased late nights, some weekends, and more travel. We had a bit of a disagreement about that. I feel that putting in the extra work now would pay off for our family in the long run. I also think it's important for kids to be raised by their mother as much as possible. What do you think I should do to help Tom see things from my perspective? Right now, I'm just worried he might make a choice that affects our future plans. It's been a rough year, and I just need to get some things off my chest. Outside of the joy of bringing my daughter, Anna, into the world, it's felt like everything else has been clouded by heartbreak. I can't shake the feeling that I'm cursed. My husband, Tom, lost his life because of a mistake on his part. He was cleaning one of his guns at home, sitting right next to me on the couch, and thought the chamber was empty, but there was still a round left in it. The gun went off, and he was killed instantly. I'm just thankful Anna was with her grandparents that night and didn't have to witness it. It's been 6 months now, and I'm still trying to come to terms with losing yet another husband. I keep wondering why this keeps happening, why they all end up making some tragic mistake that takes them from me. I don't understand why lasting love feels so out of reach. And if that weren't enough, I've recently found out that people I've known for years are spreading cruel rumors about me. They're calling me a Black Widow. I confronted them, and of course, they denied saying anything, but then they made comments about how interesting it is that I've lost 2 husbands and a fiancé. They didn't know me back in high school and have no idea of the heartache I've already endured. I'm the one left grieving, raising my daughter alone. Yes, we received life insurance, but I had to leave my job, so there's no steady income. It's incredibly hurtful that people would say such things. Then today, things took an even darker turn. A detective reached out to tell me the police haven't closed the case on Tom's death. Apparently, a medical examiner raised some questions, and now they're pulling up files from my first husband's case and even my fiancé's case. I don't know what to do. I know I need to find a lawyer, just in case this turns into some kind of witch hunt. I feel like I can't trust anyone. Even my ex-mother-in-law, Sarah, has been distant. I just want peace, happiness, and the chance at a life I deserve. I hired a lawyer, which many people advised me to do, and I'm grateful for it. He was excellent, especially since my husband's life insurance payout was substantial. My lawyer managed to access information from the police investigation before any charges were filed against me, which was a lifesaver. I can't imagine what I would have done without his help. Even with legal support, I still feel like I can't properly grieve Tom. The police investigation and the suspicious glances from those I once considered friends have been overwhelming. But then things took a darker turn. My lawyer uncovered what the prosecution and the police were holding against me, and it was terrifying, like I was caught in the middle of a witch hunt. The police are actively scrutinizing each tragedy I've experienced. They've even been interviewing people from high school. It turns out they found out that my dad's longtime girlfriend had a prescription for Rohypnol years ago. They're also questioning a large bruise that was on my fiancé's chest after his fall. I mean, of course, he had bruising. He fell 40 feet onto rocks. The report even highlighted the note about a circular, fist-sized bruise on the chest. They didn't stop there. They've been interviewing electricians and sharing photos taken after my first husband's death. It's as if they want to dig up every horrible thing that's ever happened to me, trying to paint me as some kind of murderer. I loved these men. They were taken from me. I can't comprehend why people are so intent on destroying my life. What hurt the most was hearing the accusations leveled against Tom. He's the father of my child. I would never do anything to harm him. They brought up details about angles and gunshot residue. I explained multiple times that we had been out shooting that day and that we practiced weekly. Of course, I had residue on my hands. As painful as all of this was, it was compounded by the statements they collected from people I trusted. Old friends, former colleagues, even Sarah and Christina, who I've always considered family, seemed to have turned their backs on me in my time of need. My lawyer informed me that formal charges could come at any time. That's why I had to make the tough decision to leave. Leaving everything behind was incredibly hard, but thankfully, with the remaining life insurance money, a quick sale of the house, and cashing out some investments, I was able to open an account with Caixa Geral de Depósitos. It's a significant sum, and now I qualify for citizenship by investment. It'll be an adjustment, but after looking through their extradition laws, it seems unlikely I'll be sent back to the States. Plus, Aveiro is a beautiful city with rich culture. I believe Anna and I can build a great life here, far from those who wish to harm us. I want to extend my gratitude to everyone who has offered their support and advice, especially those I've connected with through direct messages. It's heartening to know that there are still people who look out for each other, even if some comments have been less than kind. If I have any further developments, I'll definitely share them. For now, my focus will be on raising my daughter and helping us both move forward. I'm posting this today as my one and only attempt to share my side of the story. The things being said about me in the media are untrue, slanderous, and deliberately misleading. My only goal with this post is to clarify what the truth really is. Yes, it was my idea to go to the pill party back in high school, and yes, I was aware that my boyfriend had cheated on me. I didn't break up with him before the party because I didn't want to create an awkward situation, given that we had all the same friends. I thought I could endure it to ensure the party went smoothly, without drama. The recent true crime episode about my case made a big deal out of my dad's girlfriend being the only parent with a Rohypnol prescription. That doesn't mean those pills couldn't have come from elsewhere. One of the others might have had a relative or family friend who brought them. Next, I want to address the so-called motives these investigators are fixated on. They're trying to portray me as some shallow, self-obsessed woman, which is absurd. They're conducting shoddy police work and fabricating reasons for what happened. These were all accidents. Yes, I wanted a big wedding while Tom preferred a small destination wedding. The same was true with Ben. I wanted kids right away, and he wanted to wait 5 years. These are normal discussions couples have. I did not murder them because they disagreed with me. If I killed everyone who disagreed with me, I would have harmed thousands of people by now. The most ridiculous part of this entire situation was the electrician they had review the photos of the wiring. The fact that the police photographer even took those pictures makes me think they wanted this to be ruled a homicide. The electrician claimed that some parts of the wiring looked fine, but that the short in the wire seemed hasty and reckless, as if someone tampered with it. That was a total joke. Of course, the faulty part would look wrong. Why frame it as some kind of revelation? Also, I have absolutely no background in construction. I barely even pump my own gas. Yet they think I could sabotage a pool to make it electrified? If I tried to mess with electrical wires, the most likely outcome would be me getting electrocuted. I understand that when this kind of tragedy happens 4 times, it can raise eyebrows. But that doesn't make it true. You have to examine the actual evidence. It feels like everyone has jumped to a conclusion and is now searching for evidence that supports their wild theory, while ignoring everything else. The most painful part of all this has been watching the interviews, especially those given by Sarah and Christina. I thought of them as my real mom and sister. It was heartbreaking to see them buy into what the investigators are saying. I hope they eventually come to their senses and realize this is nothing more than a witch hunt. I would be more than willing to make amends at that point. I'll leave it at that. Anna and I are doing wonderfully here in Portugal. I've been seeing a nice local man in Aveiro for the past few months. He's very family-oriented, which is great because Anna and I deserve someone who puts us first and doesn't make poor choices.